It's back to school season, classes in session, and this is how you're going to maintain and reclaim educational excitement, novelty into your adulthood. I think this is a really good video if you are an adult who just sees people continuing to learn, evolve, and you wish that you could do that, or you just have a little inkling of a passion. You don't know how to approach education and learning in your adulthood because you don't have the structure of like college or whatever. And I think that this is also fantastic if you are a younger student that never went to college, that decided college wasn't for you, or you couldn't afford it, or you're still deciding on what you want to do. I think that this is such a good way to keep your mind moving, keep that muscle exercised, all while maintaining what you actually want to do and allowing your self-esteem to build, because when you honor what it is that you truly want to do, that really helps the self-esteem build. More on that in this video. Today we're going to be talking about how to maintain that back to school excitement and novelty that we all felt, even if you weren't the biggest fan of school, and how to bring that into your adult life. You guys, I loved being a student, but I didn't love going to school. Obviously, for many people, it was a very traumatic time, but being a student was great. I always enjoyed learning. I loved the subjects that I loved. I loved the teachers that were good teachers, and I even enjoyed doing homework sometimes because it felt like I was progressing mentally, right? And I think that one of the biggest things that I miss in adulthood, especially becomes triggered during this back to school time, is the preparation and the excitement of going back to school. I've got all my notes here. Let's get started. So in regards to this topic, there's going to be two categories. There's going to be the mental shifts and the mental things that you can do. And then there's going to be the physical shifts, the physical kind of things that you can do to make this exciting. First, let's talk about the mental shifts. The first thing you're really going to have to do, and something that I definitely had to train myself to do, was to reframe, reclaim the experience of being a student and what it really means to take education and learning into your own hands. Because like I said, at least for me especially, I still have nightmares every single night. It is almost every single night of my life that I dream that I'm in high school again. And so obviously this was not an easy part of our lives for so many reasons, right? Especially if just like the learning aspect was difficult for you. It wasn't just the social part. I think that there's something so valuable in being able to reclaim these aspects in our adulthood, because you remember that you actually have the agency to be able to choose what you learn, when and how you do it. And there is so much excitement and power in doing that. And so when you really are able to do that, that's where the biggest shift I think takes, and the number one thing you're gonna have to do before embarking on this journey. You're gonna want to start to enjoy being a student. And so what would that really mean for you? I think the beauty of being an adult is that you can figure out what works for you, and it does not need to be rigid whatsoever. So I would like for you to start by first exploring what it is that you actually enjoyed doing in school, or what are the kinds of activities and interests that you have now that you explore, and really write that down. I think that a method that you're really going to find beneficial throughout this process is brain dumping. If you don't know what brain dumping is, it's very easy and self-explanatory. And when people tell me, I don't know what to use a journal for, this is a great way to start journaling, because brain dumping requires no aesthetics, nothing beautiful. It requires nothing but grabbing your notebook and writing down everything that comes to mind. So start with a brain dump. Just spill out whatever it is that you have interest in. It could be literally starting to talk about a movie that you love. You could talk about how maybe you had the slightest intrigue in like skateboarding. And I'm gonna get into this later when it actually comes to choosing a topic. But I think that the beginning of reframing and reclaiming education and being a student starts with reminding yourself of what actually sparks your interest, and that education doesn't start and end at like math, science. There's so many ways that you can go about this that will make you successful. As a reminder, this whole process is not mandatory. This is like totally elective, and it should be fun and it shouldn't be stressful. So you're gonna need to remind yourself of that, because this thought of school, education, any kind of structure is stressful innately, you know? So you're gonna have to have these constant reminders of like, okay, I feel myself getting stressed out. This is not what this is. This is supposed to be fun, enjoyable, and just something that's going to like, you know, exercise my brain and only make me closer to the person that I've always aspired to be. So I think especially in reclaiming education is to really think of it like, my goal isn't always to be smarter or more, you know, like the brain whiz around my family. That isn't the goal always when it comes to education. You have to also remember that being educated also just means that you are expanding your knowledge on whatever it is. You can find your source of education in any topic, no matter how obscure or niche it is. The value is in the way that you're able to research and you're able to actually like absorb this material, and whatever it is that's valuable to you is what is going to make this successful. So how you're actually going to do this, like I said, definitely embark on a brain dump journey. This is so much fun. You're going to just have a journal and you're going to just scribble and write, kind of like a stream of consciousness exploration. You could start with any kind of interest that you have at all. So like I said, it could be a movie. Start talking about a song that you like and really see where your mind leads you here. And then you're gonna look back on it, and you can either with a different color pen or whatever it is, or a separate sheet of paper, circle or just write out what are either the common themes, or as I look through this, what's really like sparking my interest, what's making my heart skip a beat a little bit as I look back on this. Let's just say for me, if this were like 6 years ago when I was embarking on my metalsmith and jewelry journey, I'd be writing a bunch of things, and then I noticed like, okay, craftsmanship, metalwork, fashion, sculpture. These were the kind of the reoccurring themes that I would see, and I write it out here, and I start to realize like, okay, like I think this kind of craftsmanship idea is really what's bringing life to me. And kind of from there, looking at your categories and kind of massaging them out, seeing what are the common things here. So now we're at the second phase of the mental shift, and that is choose what you'll want to focus on or study. And this is right back to the first point in how you're gonna figure that out. And it could also be something that you have off the top of your head. And this is really important for you to remember. Whether it's intimidating, it's too hard for you, or it's just not one of your interests, that right there is not going to be valuable for you. It needs to be something that you actually care about and are going to benefit from. Of course, a little challenge is good, but if it's just something like you're tortured by, what's the point? Because that is going right back to number one, where you're reframing and reclaiming. You're not going to be able to do that if you hate it and you're like forcing yourself to do something. So right back to number one, that's why that's like kind of this umbrella part of this whole mental shift is forget about what's actually acceptable or, academic, and really remind yourself like what it is that you want to learn. I wrote down some things here. The thing that you can start being an adult student on, business. If you have a business that you've been wanting to start, you can start working on that. That is being a student as well, because there's so much learning. That's lifelong learning, starting a business. And I think also taking bite-sized pieces from these things that you want to do, instead of being like, okay, I am going to need to start my business just because I'm starting this. Not at all. Take it one step at a time. This doesn't need to be all or nothing. Start to look into the little things that require you to start your business, whether that's like even learning more about the topic or learning about like the red tape side, the business part. This would be a really good opportunity for you to do that because it gives you a little challenge and it's something that you want. And then I put hobbies. I think that we all have like our little hobbies that we become obsessed with, but I think this is also a really good time to explore a little bit further into a hobby that you've always had some kind of interest in. For me, this is an example. This isn't what I'm gonna do because it's not like that high up on my priority list right now, but like I've been really loving like acrobatic performances, and I think that it would be really fun to kind of do some deep dives on acrobatic performances. For me, what I would do is like watch YouTube videos on interviews of contemporary artists and then maybe backtrack from there, get a little bit historical. And I think that really following your feet in this process is gonna be the most valuable part, because you are gonna trust yourself with what you're gonna wanna explore more, and that rigidity is not gonna be there, right? Like the rigidity that would come with being a student in an academic setting where you have a syllabus, you have things that you have to learn strictly and quickly. But you are gonna have a little bit of structure here, which I'm gonna share in a minute. But like being able to follow your feet and your interests, that's what's gonna make this practice sustainable. Number 3 in the mental shifts is where you're going to add structure to your week. And this is where a little bit of that student mindset comes in, because I think that you are going to need the accountability in order to keep this going, in order to actually progress. You're going to need to add a little bit of a structure, whether it's to your day, your week, and where you're actually going to implement this learning. Something I've been doing since the new year has been dedicating one day a week for a few hours just to writing, whether I had something to write about or whether I was editing something from the week before. Giving myself this dedicated time that I gave myself every week, no matter what, was something that really, really helped respect myself, respect the decisions and the goals that I had, and to actually do it. And it becomes a habit. Although this is all elective, you do want to maintain that accountability within yourself. And these small promises that you make to yourself that you actually end up doing, it helps your self-esteem so much, which I think is just so vital in being a student throughout your life. Is you want to feel confident in your decisions. And the best place to start is when you're actually following through with the things that you tell yourself you're gonna do. This is a really good way to do that, and you can start very, very small. I'm talking you could add 5 minutes, literally tell yourself, I am going to read for 5 minutes this week. Start at that pace if that's what it requires of you, because typically what happens is when you start with like 5 minutes, whether it's 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes every few days or a week, you're gonna realize like, oh, I actually enjoyed this. I can push this for another 5 minutes. Or if you're not wanting to do it that day, be like, it's only 5 minutes, I can do this. And even if I'm annoyed, I'm still going to do it, or I'm pissed, or I'm tired, I'm still gonna do it for 5 minutes. And typically what you'll find is like, oh, that wasn't too bad. I'm actually gonna continue reading for another 5. Or, okay, I'm good, and you checked off that part of your day. So either way, something good's coming out of this, and you start tiny. And especially for a lot of us who haven't done this, start small. There is no obligation to do any bigger task than this. This is gonna start to like bleed into the physical shifts that I'm gonna talk about in a second. But keeping a planner, having a planner to help you actually maintain this structure and this scheduling. So either doing a bullet journal kind of style planner where you're actually not going to need to like purchase another journal if you don't already have one. I think that doing that, it will really help you not only feel like you're taking accountability, but being able to like physically cross things out is going to make you feel successful, and it's going to like give you a little bit of dopamine to want to continue to do more. It's all in the small things throughout this process. Number 4, the last thing in the mental shifts, which is already kind of blending in with the physical shifts, is that you're going to want to dedicate a workspace for yourself. Within this workspace, you're going to want to keep it tidy, you're going to want it to be comfortable, and you're going to want it to be something that you can always retreat to easily. When I talk about these things, I try to be as open-minded as possible, because not everybody has a separate office to go work in. Not everybody even has space for a desk in their apartment. I understand all these things. I also understand that maybe you don't live alone yet and you don't even have that peace and quiet to retreat to. I have been in all of these situations, and I understand how these things can really feel like barriers to your learning, and maybe it is going to be a little bit harder than somebody else who has an office that they can just retreat to. I have some ideas for you if you have either of these situations. So first of all, if you do have a desk at your apartment or your office, you need to maintain it clean. You have to, because that mental clutter, you have to maintain it clean. You literally have to. This is non-negotiable, because that physical clutter is mental clutter, and you are not going to want to sit there. You're not going to feel comfortable. And that goes into the second thing. You need to be comfortable. You can't just like have this like, and I'm saying this for myself, is like, I love antique furniture. I've learned that having an antique chair is not gonna work, because it's cute on the outside, but it's not functional. You know, you need something that's gonna be comfortable, that you can actually sit and work, you know? So like those kinds of things. But if you're not somebody that has a office or a desk that you can just retreat to, have a bag, like your little go bag of your educational supplies. A tote bag that has all of your stuff in there, and that's kind of like your portable desk. So you are going to have all of your stuff in there. You're going to put it away all at once. You're not going to leave it out because you don't want to forget it. You want it to be easily accessible, something that you just take and you leave. Nothing that's going to require extra effort, because we want to like take off the stress of this as much as we can. So that way, if you are wanting to be a student on the go and you can go to a cafe, or if you really want to go totally free, you can go to a library, or you can mix it up. You could go to a park, whatever it is that you're gonna want some peace and quiet. Do these things, but you're gonna have your bag ready to go, and it will just feel like a little bit less of an annoying task if you just have all your stuff together. Okay, so now we're on the physical shifts, and this is super fun. And it really starts with kind of what I was saying, is keeping your space clean. But also in terms of keeping it clean, allow yourself to refresh your space wherever your workspace is. If it is in your bedroom and your desk is here, your bed's here, move things around. Really refreshing a space tells yourself like, okay, this is a new chapter. This is a new thing that I can do versus stale energy. Now, the second thing you're gonna want to do is collecting your materials. This is the fun part, right? Like, I think I enjoyed being a student so much throughout my life because I loved the aesthetic of it. I've always loved like a dark academia aesthetic. I've just always enjoyed it. So this is where we can have fun with it, because this is fun. You're an adult. You can do whatever you want now, you know? I think I know, because I make journal charms. These are mine, July Rose Jewelry journal charms. I know that there's a huge boom in journaling right now, and I love it. Love that for us. Having a journal, you're definitely going to want a journal, but I'm gonna say you don't need a new journal for this. You really, really don't. I'm sure that you have 1,000 unused journals in your apartment right now. And if that's the case, go look at them, lay them out, and pick which one is going to be the notebook that you are dedicating to your new study. Yeah, gather your notebooks. This is so much fun. Your stationery, because a huge part of back to school, that is what makes me so sad, is that there's no more back to school shopping for us adults, you know? And I love seeing all the stuff that there is. So obviously for me, I have my journal, and in here I do have, this is a journal for like art and writing, and then my top one is my commonplace journal in this size. But I did buy these other notebooks yesterday, and I thought I would show you because these were cheap. These were like $3. And I thought, oh my God, this would be so good for this video, because these are like, this is like the notebook I imagined would be like my college notebooks when I was a kid, because this looks so like academic. I got this one, this light blue one with lines. I'm so back on line journals, by the way. I used to only be grid, and then this little one. And another thing I really feel like with this whole process is that the dopamine is really gonna hit when you start actually filling up and using your notebook. Because it's gonna be so satisfying and beautiful, and it's a great way to track your progress. Another thing, obviously, is like your pens. I also got this new pen yesterday. I love like a burgundy pen, and this one's way more purple, so I guess like maroon or whatever. It's so cute. So you know, even if you do need to buy like 1 or 2 things to get yourself excited again, let it be like one small pen or just something, you know, sticky notes, whatever it is, it definitely helps. I'm not gonna lie, like obviously having new stuff definitely helps. And that, like I said, is a huge thing of the back to school stuff that makes it so exciting. And I think is kind of what I'm gonna get into next, is like the physical shifts. Like back to school used to be so fun, because although, like I said, I hated school, I would always get this like stomach flipping feeling of like being so excited to be like fresh, like coming in with like a manicure, or coming in with my new clothes, or like my new backpack, whatever it was. Because, you know, it was like your spiritual reset. It was like your signal to yourself and the world that like, okay, I'm ready to do this whole new year or whatever. And so obviously I understand these physical shifts make a huge impact on how you're gonna feel throughout the process. So definitely don't undermine the physical shifts that you can do, whether that's getting yourself a facial, going to get a massage to kind of like renew this chapter of your life, getting your hair cut, any of those like physical shifts makes such a big difference, because it really marks this new chapter. Another idea for a physical shift is picking a scent that's going to really mark this part of your life. For me, going back to school, it was just like so autumnal. When I was younger, back to school was already like crispy leaves on the ground, chilly all day. Obviously that's shifting now, but that's what it was in the Midwest. And so I have so many memories of like, I can smell like a certain Bath & Body Works hand sanitizer and be taken back to when I was literally like 10, you know? So let's bring that back to our lives, because we deserve to mark these special moments. Because just because we're an adult doesn't mean that this timeline is going to be like super linear. It's okay to like make it feel nostalgic and comfy and fun, you know? And like I said, the most important part is that we are reclaiming these situations and making it what we wish they could have been. Pick a scent, whether that's going to purchase a new fragrance, a new perfume for yourself, a new room spray, a new candle. A new candle is a really good idea, because you can have a little candle on your desk if that's where you're working, and light it up whenever you're gonna work. Whatever it is, pick like a scent, something that's going to like bring you right back to the space of when you decided to reclaim your educational journey. And the last thing for the physical shifts I'm gonna say is have some snacks prepared for when you're studying. And again, this doesn't need to be every time, because I know that as soon as I have too many like things to do to make this work is when I start to kind of get turned off, because I get overwhelmed. But having just like a simple array of nice snacks while you're studying or doing your work is so nice, because it's just gonna make it enjoyable, you know? You don't want this to be torturous. Make yourself some tea. I have an amazing tea tray video that I'm definitely gonna do more of, but make yourself a little tea tray, some snacks, whether it's like nuts, some little cookies, just have something that's accessible that you could just munch on while you're working. That's always super nice. I really hope that this maybe sparked a new idea in you to try this out, because I think that the reclaiming of our educational journeys is so important spiritually, emotionally, because it tells us that we love ourselves enough to learn and to keep evolving. And I think that it's so valuable to do that for ourselves, because it will help shape you into the person that you aspire to be. All these inspirational photos that you save on Pinterest, whatever, they start from deep within. I know that's so corny, but it's true. There's not enough clothes in the world that you can buy that is gonna make you the person you wanna be if you're not getting there internally. And I think that always starts with either education or exploring your self-interests, honoring who it is that you really are, because it tells yourself that you're valuable. I really hope that you embark on this journey with me. You know, we could start next week, because it's August and it's back to school. So let's do this, and I'll definitely do some more content if you'd like, how I'm actually approaching like the actual structure of my studying. If you need some ideas, I'll do a Substack post on that. But otherwise, I think that you got this, and I'm really proud of you for even considering it. So if you have any questions, absolutely let me know. Subscribe to me on here because I love our community here. Follow me on Instagram. It's Jalissa Rose, same as here, or July Rose Jewelry. Shop July Rose Jewelry for my handcrafted pieces, including my journal charms that are unbelievably popular. This could be a little something that you treat yourself with as a congratulations to doing your journey. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll absolutely see you in the next video. Thanks so much. See ya.